So, hello, everybody, and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. He'll be back here, BSN Network. This is BSN Network podcast here today. It is Monday, January 10th. Hopefully everybody's having a day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. It is, in fact, Monday, January 10th here today, coming off another big weekend in sports, another big night last night in the NFL world, a wild one, an absolute wild one to finish out what was a wild and crazy and ultimately an exciting and fun season. Obviously not really for the New York football with the Jets and the Giants. We'll get to them a little bit more later on. But last night was, wild. And watching that game, and you're watching the final seconds tick down and even into overtime, and the game-winning drive by Herbert to get the game into overtime on the 4th down and 9, throwing the touchdown to, I believe it was Mike Williams, which was a laser. Double covered in the end zone. He put it slightly to the left. It's interception. Put it slightly to the right, it's interception. Or not even interception, it's deflected, it's incomplete. He put it right on the money. There was nowhere else that ball could have been. Put it right on the money. And then you have the wild craziness, timeout, whatever, Brandon Staley, whatever happened. And ultimately, just a wild day yesterday. The Colts are eliminated from the playoffs, and the Pittsburgh Steelers are in. The Chargers and Raiders did not tie, so Steelers are in, and the Raiders are in, and the Chargers are eliminated. So, today we got up, and craziness happened yesterday in the NFL. Let's just say that. And craziness today has already occurred in the NFL. I just want to make this clear, and I'll get more into detail. I get what you're trying to say about, I apologize. Sorry, I was looking down on my screen here. It loaded off. So sorry if I sound a little choppy there. What I was about, I get what you're, going to want me to hear. I'm going to want to talk about Joe Judge and all that stuff. The fact that Brian Flores today does not have a job anymore and Joe Judge does is just mind-boggling to me. It's really just mind-boggling to me. It is just out of this world. I can't comprehend it. I don't know how in the world Joe Judge today still has a job with the New York Giants, but one of the better coaches, I think, in the AFC, and you can make the argument in the NFL. Now, I'm not saying he's the best coach in the league, but in terms of having locker room management, changing the culture, keeping your team competitive, winning big games, beating division opponents. He's 4-12 against Belichick. In his 3 years with the Dolphins, he was 4-2 against Belichick. I'm sorry if I said 4-12. 4-2 with Belichick. Against Belichick, I mean. So, I don't know how Brian Flores does not have a job today. I'll get more in detail to all the head coaching firings tomorrow. I don't think it's going to happen, but if any more happen today, I will get to that stuff tomorrow. So tomorrow I'll get to head coaching firings. I'll get to probably the Jets, maybe the Giants offseason update or offseason preview, what they need to do. Maybe I'll get to the Jets tomorrow, Giants on Wednesday, kind of wrap up the year in football, and then really get focused on the playoffs and all that good stuff. So we'll figure that out. But that's just wild to me. And other coaches got fired. Zimmer, Nagy, Nagy and Ryan Pace, Zimmer and the Vikings GM. Obviously, Brian Flores was the most surprised firing. Right? We knew Nagy was gone. We knew Zimmer was gone. I think most people expected the Bears to clear house. Vikings, I think people expected the Vikings to clear house. But the Dolphins came by complete surprise. And I think it really is a power struggle, down in Miami. And that's really what I think is happening. I think it's a power struggle. I think it's GM wanting all the power. I think it's GM wanting to just shake things up for no reason. There's issues down there, and I think right now, if you're a Dolphins fan, you got to be concerned at where that organization's headed. There was no need to fire Brian Flores, and now you only hurt Tua and his future. Firing a coach early on in a quarterback's career is one of the worst things you could do. Sometimes you got to do it. Sometimes you have to. Like Matt Nagy in Chicago, it's over, it's done. You can say what you want about Fields being a first, it's done. You could not have brought Nagy back. I understand that, right? let's say the Giants would have fired Judge. I understand Daniel Jones is still young and all that, but you had to fire him. They didn't. It's ridiculous, but still. There was no need to fire Brian Flores. There was absolutely zero need. Ridiculous and just outrageously dumb that they fired him. And hey, Brian Flores, you're not going to be off too long. I would say within the next month you're going to have a job. You went from being, you're probably the prime coaching candidate now out there. So we'll get to that stuff, like I said, more in detail tomorrow. I could go on and on about the Brian Flores firing. It's just ridiculous. I mean, it really is. I mean, it's one of those things that you just wonder where the thought process was. Like, where in the world were the Miami Dolphins thinking firing him? It's almost like the Jets hiring Adam Gase. What were they thinking? Dolphins now firing Flores. What were they thinking? I would love to hear their thought process because it's ridiculous. But anyway, lot to get to today in the podcast. We'll get you the NFL recap, final full one of the season. Obviously, we got Wildcard weekend coming up. We'll take a quick peek ahead to all the Wildcard games, give you some of the schedules, when teams are playing. I'm super pumped up for the special Monday night Wildcard game that they have. Full weekend, 2 games on Saturday, 2 games on Sunday, a game on Monday. So super fired up and excited about that. Then we'll get to fantasy football, wrap up the season. Fantasy football, tough year for me. Really tough year for me. Ended with a dud yesterday. Just a tough year in fantasy football. You got to hope that fantasy baseball, and right now as fantasy basketball season continues, has better results in store, because this was a very tough year in fantasy football. Like I said, I felt good. I felt good coming out of the draft. I felt good coming out of the draft. Especially in my one league I did. My PPR league I felt really good. My non-PPR league I felt good. I thought there was a lot of really good teams in my non-PPR league, so I felt like my team was good. It's just a matter of could they beat those teams, and obviously they couldn't. My PPR league, I was super fired up about it. Especially that's a league that I have not drafted well in the past couple years. I thought I really did well this year in the draft. Just injury and underperformance. I mean, just Ryan Tannehill not living up to expectations. A.J. Brown being injured, and he's been inconsistent. Amari Cooper inconsistent. I picked up, drafted Tanyan at the beginning of the year. He was really bad. Picked up Schultz. He was a really nice addition, but it was almost like too little too late. So a little bit of a tough year in fantasy, but I can't dwell on it. So it's fantasy. It's just for fun. My one league, I just play for fun. My other league, we actually play for, a little trophy. So I won't be getting that trophy this year, but got to hope next year I do. So it's really bragging rights, but still, you like to win. New York Sports Update, we'll get to that. Nets won yesterday, as you can see, rocking the Nets sweatshirt, City Edition sweatshirt. Happy about the win. It was ugly. It wasn't pretty. Don't ask me how we needed to go to overtime against the Spurs team. It's just beyond me. But we did. But hey, I always say, it's a classic saying in sports, a win is a win. You play to win the game. As Herm Edwards once said, you play to win the game. The Nets did that yesterday, and they won. It doesn't matter how you do it. It was ugly. It wasn't pretty. If we play like that against some of the top-tier teams, we're going to get smoked. But we played like it, and we got the win. So that's all that matters. We'll get to that. Rangers also tonight back in action against the Kings. No Gallant. He's on the COVID list. So Chris Knobloch, who filled in for the short time last season, while Quinn and other coaches were on the, obviously, former Rangers coach David Quinn last season was on the COVID list. Chris Knobloch took over. Rangers actually played pretty well under him, so you got to hope to expect the same spark. Rangers tonight in L.A., against the Kings, and then I was just about to say the Staples Center, but I forgot they named it to, I believe, Crypto.com Arena or Crypto Arena or something like that. Some weird name. So the Rangers play tonight in the Kings, then they have a day off tomorrow and then Wednesday, and then they'll play Thursday against the Sharks in San Jose, and then they wrap up the road trip in Philly Saturday night, and then back home at the Garden to start up a homestand. Alrighty, so with all that being said, big podcast ahead of us. College football on tonight. You got the national championship. I will reveal my game pick for that game shortly. And, with all that being said, this is BSN Arc Podcast, and let's get right into it. Alrighty. So let me just reveal to you my game pick record. Shocking week. So, what I might have said on Friday might sound ridiculous right now. I do believe I said there was no chance the Jaguars beat the Colts. So, obviously, that was wrong. If you have that clip and you're playing it back right now, and you're laughing at me, laugh at me all you want. I don't think many people expected the Jaguars to beat the Colts. I know I didn't, but they did. But either way, with all the upsets and craziness that happened yesterday, I still went 9-7. So I still get over the 170 win mark. It was close. Definitely. I needed 8. I got 9. So 171-100 going into the playoffs. So I have not yet done the math exactly, but I believe I can still, I guess, technically beat. Maybe not. I don't think I can actually. I don't think I can, because what? 6, so you'd be 6, 7, so it'd be 4-2, 4-3 now because there's the extra while. I don't even know. I'll do the math. I don't know what my best possible record I can be, but I'm 171-100 going into the wildcard round this weekend. So not bad. Last season I finished 189-90, so I'm not going to be able to finish as good, but still 171-100. I would like to reach the 180 mark. It's not going to be easy, but it's definitely in reach. Wildcard round is the biggest round. If you do well for your game picks on wildcard, like if you get 4 or 5 correct out of like this, whatever. Last year there was 6 games, this year one extra, obviously. However you go, wildcard's big because there's the most games. After that, it's divisional, then championship, AFC championship, NFC championship, 2 games, and the Super Bowl's only 1. So, we'll see. Hopefully I get to 180, but still 171-100 going into the playoffs is not bad at all. Alrighty, so let's get to into the craziness of the weekend. I'll start with the Jets, then go to the Giants, and then, like I said, my new kind of routine I've been doing is kind of just going around to some of the key games that happened. So let's start off with the Jets, right? Jets fall to the Bills yesterday, 27-10. I know I haven't really mentioned the Jets much on this podcast yet. Jets fall to 4-13 on the season, finish the year with a 4-13 record. Bills are 11-6. They finish the year 11-6 as they head into the playoffs, and they meet the New England Patriots Saturday night in Buffalo this upcoming weekend. I'm excited for that game. That's one of the games you circle as one of the key playoff games to watch this weekend. One of the key wildcard games to watch this weekend. Buffalo, cold weather, New England, Patriots, Belichick. It's going to be fun. So we'll see. The Bills kind of the new team in the AFCs. Can they take down New England, or is New England going to do it again and take down another AFC East opponent and get to the divisional round? Is Belichick going to pull through and work his magic? Once again, we'll find that out. I'll get to more of that later on in the week. Look, right, the Jets season's over. 4-13. It's been over for it's really been over for most of the season. Having the 2-6 or 2 whatever it was, to having the 2-win start like we did. Injury to Wilson, Mike White. Had the one good game. It's been over for a while, and watching that game yesterday, it was frustrating. It really was. We were in the game. I mean, we were. And I predicted the Jets to lose 31-21. I thought the Jets were actually going to show up a little bit on offense. They didn't at all. Outside of the Zach Wilson, really nice throw to Keelan Cole for the 40-yard touchdown. There was nothing. There was nothing the Jets did on offense. And we could not convert on third down to do it. I mean, we couldn't. Wilson gets sacked 9 times. And this just goes to show you everything, too. Jets at 53 total yards of offense. I mean, that cannot happen. If you want to win games in the NFL, 53 total yards of offense is not going to happen. And the Bills had 424. Now, I don't really think it's fair to look at the Bills and say, 424 yards of offense, this defense takes. No, the defense played well yesterday. Bills had some late scores. At that point, the defense was just worn down. They scored, 2 touchdowns late in the fourth quarter. At that point, like I said, defense was worn down. It was cold. It was bad weather. It was like, everything, all of just the grind of the season was showing out in that fourth quarter. It was like the final game of the season. You were already worn out from the game. Everything that you put into the season, it was showing. Like the Jets were just at that point, they were just drained. Like they just had no energy left, and the defense just got toasted. So realistically, you removed the fourth quarter, and the Jets went into the fourth quarter down 3. They go into the fourth quarter down 3. And you're thinking to yourself, we're just a 1 touchdown away. We are 1 breakout play away. We're just 1 50-yarder. We're just 1 big gain away from a 17-13 game against a Buffalo Bills team that is on their way to the division. Because let me mind you, going into the fourth quarter, New England was already done. They were going to lose. They were down. I know they slightly came back. They were done. We knew it. They needed a miracle. They were done. So even though the Bills, the AFC's champions, you had a chance to take them down at home. And they still would have celebrated the AFC East, but it wouldn't have been as nice of a celebration because they would have lost and won the AFC East. But the Jets couldn't do anything on offense. We could not do anything on offense. And Berrios was a key factor that was missing. Crowder tried to play. You wonder why we rushed him back. Not rushed him back, but you just wonder what the thought process was of bringing him back for the final game. Clearly his calf wasn't good enough. He re-injured it. He had to go out. You wonder what the thought process there was. The coaching staff, I guess you figure Berrios is gone. If you want to at least make the game competitive, you need some veteran presence out there with Crowder. I understand Cleveland called a touchdown pass, but we were working with really nothing. And that's what's so frustrating. It's like when you try to evaluate a quarterback and he has no weapons around it. And like I said, I'm not going to sit here and create excuses for Wilson because Wilson, to be honest, he did not, look at the numbers. He did not play well yesterday. He didn't. He went 7 of 20, 87 yards and a touchdown. That's not great. Now, let me tell you, he did not throw a pick. He did not turn the ball over. He did not make that costly mistake. Something that with the way that game was going, if the way that game was going yesterday, if that was earlier in the season, I would have said Wilson probably throws 3 interceptions because he's going to try to force things. He's going to panic and just chuck the ball. Yesterday, he did not do that. And that was something positive to take away. You can look at the numbers and look at the 87 yards and look at the 53 total yards of offense and look at the fact that he had a completion percentage below 50%. And look at the fact that the leading receiver had 54 yards. And you'll just look at just the third down conversion rate. Look at all that stuff. Fine, look at it all. I know Wilson had the fumble, but he recovered it. So it doesn't count as a turnover, right? He recovered it. But, if this was a game, like if you look at this Jets game, right, and you look at it, if this is something that happened in week 3, Jets lose. Like they lose and they lose by a ton, and Wilson probably throws 3 picks. But Wilson showed progress in terms of not making that costly a mistake. And I understand. He ran out of bounds on that one play, and it's something he needs to work on. I don't know if it's just the Jets and it's the way they do things. Jets quarterbacks do not like throwing the ball away. I mean, how hard is it to just throw the ball away? I get it. You're down. Your offense isn't doing anything. Wilson wants to try to make a big play and step up and do something. But look, right? Final game. I said this on Friday. Final game of the season. No need to be throwing your body around for a useless game up in Buffalo in the cold. A game that week 1 of next season, nobody will be talking about. By a matter of fact, next week, nobody will be talking about this game because it's going to be off season. It's going to be in the midst of the playoffs. Nobody's going to care about this game. As a matter of fact, today, nobody really cares about this game because me as a Jet fan too, my focus is already on the off season. What we might do in the draft, what we might do in free agency, players that are going to be free agents on this team, players that we could extend. So, you got to realize to throw the ball away. And that's something Wilson needs to work on next season because that's how injuries happen. You're running around, you get drilled blindside, or you just get hit from the behind, or, who knows? Somebody, comes at you low and he takes out your legs. That just cannot happen. When Wilson was running around yesterday and took a couple of those sacks, he's got to throw the ball away. And I get it. He's trying to make a big play. He's trying to make something out of nothing. He's working with pretty much nothing. And he's trying to do something. I get that, but, we luckily came out of that game healthy. Look, I can't stress this enough. I'll probably get to this more tomorrow. Like I said, unless if any other news or breaking news comes out with any other stuff in sports. Like I said, topics for me, I play it by ear. It's really however the sports goes. I would like to recap the Bama game. I think depending on that game goes too. I mean, if it's a blowout, I probably won't speak much on it because it's a blowout. But if it's a close and good game, definitely might be one of my topics tomorrow. But I definitely plan on this week getting more into the Jets in offseason. And I have a list. I'm going to create a list of about 5-10 players that the Jets should look at in free agency, and maybe about 5-10 players the Jets should look at. I do it I try to do it every year just to kind of give a layout of what the Jets could do. And then, hey, come week 1 of next year, you look at the roster and you're like, okay, these are guys that these are guys at the beginning of the season that we hope to get. These are the guys that we got. These are the guys that we didn't got. And ultimately, this is the roster we're throwing out there. But I can't stress this enough, right? Like I said, yesterday's game, it was bad. It was ugly. But it's the final game. Nobody expected us to win. We were, the defense played well. They were competitive. Look, we were down 3 against a team that's going to compete seriously for the Super Bowl going into the fourth quarter. Say what you want about the Buffalo Bills just playing bad. We were down 3 to a very good opponent. I don't know how we were only down 3, but we were down 3. Defense stepped up, made plays. So now you move on to next season. Now you move on to the offseason. And look, I want to make this clear. Then I'll get to the Giants and I'll get to the rest of the NFL and then we'll get to the rest of the podcast. The magnitude of this offseason for the New York Jets cannot be stressed enough. This is probably one of the biggest off seasons the Jets have had in the past couple years. In terms of where the franchise is headed, in terms of Joe Douglas, the GM's future, Robert Saleh's future. If the Jets come in next season and win 4 games again, I can guarantee you Saleh is not there, Douglas is not there, coaching staff is not there. You're blowing the whole thing up again. You're going to restart. And it's going to be that constant cycle of garbage that we've witnessed for the past 11 years with no playoffs. Okay? So, Jets need to make moves this offseason. They need to make moves. They might need to make a splash or two. They're going to need to spend some money. They might need to get away from the whole approach of young guys. They might need to go out and sign a big name asset. Tight end. Another receiver. Make some splashes in the draft. Get some flashy players. Get some guys in here that are going to make plays and do serious damage. Jets need to kind of be like go into the offseason a little bit with their pants on fire. Like go in the offseason, be aggressive, right? Spend money, be aggressive. Act like you need to make the playoffs this season. Because I will tell you this. This season was struggle for the Jets. It was. I don't think us Jets fans really saw this season playing out this way. I mean, I know none of us had us going to the playoffs. I know none of us, had us winning 10 games. Maybe some of you did. I know I didn't. I said 6 to 8 wins would be nice. I knew 8 wins was going to be really tough. I knew it was going to be tough. And I even look back on it now, and I kind of feel stupid for 8 wins. I didn't think 6 wins was that difficult. You look at some of these other games that we could have had. I mean, that Falcons game very well. That Falcons game, even I'm just thinking about games. Like, the Buccaneers game could have been a win if we don't blow it late, right? So, there are a couple things that, things lean your way. We could have had maybe 1 or 2 more wins, but 4-13 is still not a good record. So, that's where the Jets set them up. Jets set themselves in this position. It's a position where you need to have a good offseason if you want to come back next year and have a good year. If you come back next season and win 4 games, it's going to be the cycle again. Where you're going to have to restart, you're going to have to hire a new coach, hire a new GM, and us Jets fans are going to have to try to believe and try to be like, oh, this is finally the guy, and maybe that doesn't happen. It's going to be a cycle again. And hey, you might laugh. I'd say that's not going to happen. Look what's happened the past decade with this organization. Jets need to get it right this offseason, and they need to make some splashes. They need to make some moves. They need to do stuff. They can't be conservative and sit back and say, oh, young guys. They need to make moves. You don't realize how pivotal of an offseason this is for the New York Jets. And I'll leave it at that, and I'll go more in detail as the week goes on. So, some final stats for the season for the final game yesterday. Wilson went 7 of 20, 87 yards, 12.4 was average, a touchdown. On here it says 8 sacks. I know some say 9 sacks, 8 sacks, whatever it was, still terrible. And a rating of 66. Offense line did not play well. Running game could never get going. I mean, no other way to put it. And the receiving game either. Keelan Cole had 3 catches for 54 yards and a touchdown. So Keelan Cole played well for whatever it's worth. He played well, and for a guy that's kind of had a little bit of a disappointing season, I like the pickup. I like the depth move. He hasn't got much playing time. He hasn't got as much opportunities. Made a nice play yesterday, got a touchdown, and made it interesting at least for the first half of the game. So either way, Bills beat the Jets 27-10. Jets will be without playoffs again for the 11th straight year, the longest current drought in the NFL, and officially the Jets season's wrapped up, and now we look ahead towards a big, in terms of just future of this organization, big offseason coming up. All right, let's get to the Giants. Where do I begin? Where do I begin with the New York Giants? Giants yesterday lose 22-7. So the Giants fall to 4-13 on the season. Washington improved to 7-10, and they finish out the year on a high note with a win after a rocky final couple weeks of the year. Washington finish out on a high note, and Washington goes into the offseason too with some questions. Depending on what happens with Russell Wilson in Seattle, what are you going to do with Heineke? you have a good draft pick. Do you fully trust Heineke? Do you maybe look at a guy in the draft? Do you look at a guy in free agency? Look how, a lot of questions around Washington. I've said it. I think the whole Heineke story is great. I think it's cool. I think it's great to see, a guy that, a couple years ago or before, this time last year, you could even say, or whatever, during last season, before he got he was, in grad school or whatever, taking classes. And then Washington called him up, say, we need a quarterback. He said, all right. And boom, just like that, a couple weeks, he's playing in a playoff game for against the Buccaneers and seriously, put up a fight. I mean, Washington last season, that wildcard game did not go down without a fight. It actually caught a lot of people by surprise. Like, a lot of people had to do a reality check with the Bucs because the Bucs barely got past the Washington last season. That was a tough win for them. So a lot of people were like, is this Bucs team, is this really what we're getting? And sure enough, the Bucs went on and won the Super Bowl, and it's Tom Brady and all that stuff. Don't need to rehash those events. Tom Brady and Super Bowl in the same sentence hurts me as a Jet fan. But either way, right, Washington gets the win, and there's questions for them. But, it's just, like I said, I'm going to sound like a broken record. And I saw some of this Giants game yesterday. I will admit, I was watching the Nets, had halftime, and switched it back to Giants. Once the Nets game was done, I finished watching the Giants. I felt like I got, the worst part of it all. Like, the part where it's just, you're in the third, fourth quarter, and, you just want the season to end already. It's like the fan base wanted it. The people, the three people that were at the game yesterday, did you see that crowd? That should say something to John Mara and this organization. When you have that crowd that shows up. There was nobody there. There was nobody at that game yesterday. I mean, it literally, genuinely looks like there was COVID protocols in place and it was limited capacity. That's what it looked like. It looked like an NFL game from last year in the limited stadiums that had fans, like Jacksonville and stuff like that, where it was limited capacity, 3, 6 seats, whatever it is in between each other. That's what it looked like. It looked like that was the first game back with fans. And it felt like that too, because there was no energy, absolutely no energy. And I got to admit, from a football fan standpoint, I was kind of happy I got to see this game. I know it's hard on the eyes. Same thing with the Jets game. But, it was just funny. I was laughing. Just sitting there watching that game, I was just laughing. I mean, I was just like, oh my God. And they keep Joe Judge. Joe Judge is going to come back as the New York Giants head coach. Whatever, look, this is it. So, Joe Judge returning as head coach for the New York Giants. Joe Judge staying with Giants. Josina Anderson reports New York is keeping its head coach despite 4-13 season. And look, you know me as a Jet fan. I hated Adam Gase. I despised him. I still stand by this today. Rich Kotite, you can make the argument with the Jets, one of the worst of all time. Urban Meyer, I think very well could be one of the worst of all time. Right? Fan bases might say, oh, this guy. Urban Meyer might be one of the worst football coaches of all time. If kicking players is true, the locker room, all that mess that he created. He couldn't even last the full season. He was awful. Adam Gase, terrible. Completely awful. Just don't know why we hired him in the first place. Like I said, Rich Kotite, another guy, 1-15 with the Jets, Peyton Manning go back to school, all that stuff. All that craziness that went on. The what ifs, all that. Listen, okay, now there was one extra game. So, whatever you want to say, whether that one extra game could have been, you could say, oh, that could have been a win for the Giants or a loss for the Giants. Adam Gase in 2 years with the Jets went 9-23. Joe Judge in 2 years with the Giants, 10-23. Now, with the 18-week season and the extra game, he coached an extra game. So you as a Giant fan could say, okay, well, I mean, I guess actually realistically on the schedule, they did have one extra game. Their one extra game, I believe, was against the Dolphins. Yes, so they lost that game. So I guess technically you could say that one extra game was a loss, so I guess you got to give the benefit of the doubt to 10-22. Because I believe the one extra game was against the Dolphins because it went by position. Giants last year finished third in the division, I think. So Dolphins finished third. Jets finished, or no, Dolphins didn't finish third. I thought they finished second. I don't even know. I think it was the Dolphins was their extra game. Yeah, because the Jets' extra game was the Eagles. Bills' extra game was the Bills' extra game Washington, and New England's extra game was Was New England's extra game the, I'm trying to think here. Was New England's extra game the Cowboys? I know, I guess this is kind of besides the point, because, New England's extra game was against the Cowboys. Bills' extra game was against Washington. Dolphins' extra game was against the Giants, and Jets' extra game was against the Eagles. So it was AFC East, NFC East. And obviously the AFC was home for all those games. Next year, the NFC will get the extra home game. So this year, AFC teams had 9 home games. Next year, NFC teams will have 9 home games due to the odd number of games. So I guess you could give them the benefit of the doubt and say technically, if it was a 17-game season, you would eliminate that Dolphins game, and you would be 10-22. Either way, besides the fact, Adam Gase in 2 years with the Jets, 9-23. They fired him. They did what they needed to do, fired him, and brought in a head coach that you have some hope and there's some hope around it, right? 9-23. Now, Joe Judge, last season goes 6-10, this season goes 4-13. 10-23 in 2 years. One more win than the brutal, terrible, laughable, crazy-eyed Adam Gase had in his 2 years with the Jets. And they keep him for a third year. I mean, it is beyond ridiculous. And like I said, I mean, I've always said this as a sports fan. Like, I don't like teams. I have my dislikes on teams. But at the end of the day, I'm focused on my 4 favorite teams. That's the Jets, Nets, Rangers, and Yankees. I'm not always so worried about what's going on. Like Knicks fans last season saying, oh, we want Brooklyn. Like, to me, I could care less what the Knicks are doing. They could win 5 games in a row for all I care. I mainly focus on my 4 teams. But from just a fan standpoint and just wanting to see just it backfire on them, just imagine if next season they start off 0-3. The fan base, the callers on radio shows, the media is going to be destroying him. You know what the Giants did? I'm saying it right now. Today, January 10th, Monday, Black Monday in the NFL, where all the coaches usually get fired. Today, I'm calling it right now. The Giants just set their franchise back. Now, maybe the Joe Judge has this genius plan and they go on and win a Super Bowl. Not going to happen. But right now, with the way this season went and the way yesterday went and the way this organization is constructed, this is going to be a mess. And the Giants just set their franchise back another year. The Giants had the choice. They could have tore this thing up, restarted, said, hey, we're bringing a new quarterback, new GM, new coach, new everything. We're blowing it up. We're restarting like the Jets did last season. Outside of the GM, they blew up the coaching staff and most of the roster, right? Got rid of Darnold, got rid of a lot of veterans, brought in young talent, more young talent, some veterans, some other pieces, right? That's what the Jets did. And they went into this season with the mindset of improvement. You got to see progress, and at times we saw that. The Giants could have did the same thing this year and got a head start. Then that would cause this year to be kind of the rebuild and progress year, and then next season be your big offseason. And now we sit here today, the Giants with no cap space, questions at quarterback. What, you're going to now just say, oh, Kevin Abrams, here's the GM job? Joe Judge is back. What are the New York Giants doing? What are they doing? I mean, for an organization that was once at the top of the NFL and relevant every single season, it seemed, have some of the greatest ever to touch the field, they retain Joe Judge. I mean, it is an embarrassment what the Giants organization has become. And there's been rumors that the locker room was lost and the players don't fully trust him. Listen to the fans. Mara should look at the fans. I mean, the fans, yesterday's attendance should tell you something. Dave Gettleman did retire, so Giants fans can be happy about that, but that was expected. I think ultimately today Giants fans wanted Judge to get fired. We've known for over half this season Gettleman's done. What Giants fans ultimately wanted to get today was the report that Joe Judge was fired and the Giants were going to start a new search, and that search wasn't going to be led by Mayer. I think that's ultimately what Giants fans wanted, and they didn't get that. And that, to me, just goes to show you how clueless John Mara and the Giant organization is. And ultimately, why do I think they brought him back? Because the Giants' last 2 coaches only lasted 2 years. Ben McAdoo went 10-6 in his first season, I believe. Then went 3-13, got rid of him. Or was it 3-13 or 4-12? Something bad. Pat Shurmur, bad first season, bad second season. Bring in Joe Judge, bad first season, bad second season. Now you bring him back? Ben McAdoo got you to a playoff. I'm not trying to get on Ben McAdoo's side and say, oh, they should have never fired him. I'm just using his example. Ben McAdoo got you in the playoffs first year, was gone after his second season. Joe Judge, who has you 2 double-digit loss seasons in his first 2 years. And the way this season ended should speak volumes about how bad of a coach he is. You keep him. It's because the Giants didn't want to go through another coaching change. They want to try to figure out a way to see this thing work. And it's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. We've already seen it. This clearly isn't working. And they bring him back. Oh my God. What are they doing? But Brian Flores got fired. Right when Brian Flores got fired, the Giants should have said, you know what? Completely just destroy our plan. We're getting Brian Flores. That's what they should have done. They didn't. Bringing back Joe Judge. And this is the product that you're probably going to have to sit through next year as a New York Giant fan. Giants yesterday, Jake Fromm went 15 of 31, also under 50% passing, 103 yards, only 6.9 was average, a touchdown, 2 picks, 3 sacks, and a rating of 40.1. And what did you expect? It's Jake Fromm. It's the Giants' offense. Running game was terrible. Barkley finishes with 30 yards. Your leading receiver was Darius Slayton, who had 2 catches for 29 yards and a touchdown. Kenny Golladay, Kadarius Toney combined for your big-ticket offseason free agent, Kenny Golladay, and Kadarius Toney, your first-round receiver, both combined for 0 touchdowns. New York Jets offense lineman Connor McDermott had more receiving touchdowns than Kadarius Toney and Kenny Golladay. 2 guys that were expected to do big things in the offense had combined. Giants finished the year 4-13. Washington finishes 7-10, and Washington has some questions themselves, no doubt about it. One of the questions is their name that we'll find out February 2nd, which I'm pretty excited for. We'll figure that out. I don't really get why they're changing their name. I think at this point, as us fans, I think we've all kind of gotten used to calling them Washington or whatever you want to say. But, they're changing their name, and I guess that'll be their name for many years to come so we can get used to it. Whether it's the Admirals or something like that, we will find out. All we do know is it will be the same colorway. So it's not like they're going to turn into a blue team. They're going to be still, burgundy and gold. And, so that's one thing Washington's had those colors for years. So you would think that they had to keep those, which they are. So, alright, so let's get to some of these other NFL games. Some ones that didn't really mean much, right? Cowboys beating the Eagles. Cowboys destroyed them. Chiefs destroyed the Broncos. Oh, Vic Fangio. He was the other one that got fired. He got fired on Sunday since their game was on Saturday. I knew there was another coach that got fired. It was Fangio, it's Zimmer, Nagy, and Flores. And I don't know if there will be anyone else. Probably not. I mean, I think the Raiders, their interim coach, they will probably, maybe they don't fire him, but they probably will fire him just because he's an interim. They probably fire him and then maybe interview him to bring him back. Rick Bisaccia, who's done a great job, by the way. In an interesting situation with a coach getting laid off in the middle of a year, kind of unexpectedly. The news breaking, one day and then 2 days later, him gone. Kind of something that was unexpected, especially the way the season was going for the Raiders. For him to take over in a position like that, he's been really good. Some of these other games, Vikings defeated the Bears, didn't mean much. Browns defeated the Bengals 21-16. Lions, surprising win over the Packers. Good way for them to finish out the year, 37-30. Titans over the Texans, so Titans clinched the number 1 seed in the AFC. That was interesting. Texans keep an eye out for. Maybe David Coley is a 1-year kind of guy. Maybe they don't. I think the Texans is kind of a waiting game with David Coley because here's my thing. I think if the right coach becomes available, they will probably fire him and go in and say, okay, we're going to look for this guy. If they believe that the right situation is not available, right coach isn't available, right guy's not there, they'll probably keep David Coley and say, okay, we're going to roll with you for another year. I think that could be something where David Coley could still get fired. It might not happen right away. It could depend on how, the coaching and offseason shakes out. Saints over the Falcons. In the heat of the moment, Saints got the win. It was big. But hindsight 2020 didn't mean much. Bucks destroyed the Panthers. Dolphins beat the Patriots yesterday 33-24, which no matter what the Bills did, win, lose, or tie, Bills were going to be the AFC's champions. And the big game was the Chargers-Raiders. Raiders winning 35-32. And the other one, too, was the Ravens-Steelers. Steelers beat the Ravens on a game-winning field by Chris Boswell, 16-13. So the Steelers, going into this week, had absolutely pretty much no shot. And I said it on Friday. I will admit, right? I admit when I'm wrong. I'm not always right. Most of the time, I guess I am wrong. I don't know. I don't really keep track of the predictions I get right, predictions I get wrong. I get some right, get some wrong. I mean, I guess on my game picks this season, I've got 171 correct and 100 wrong. So, I guess that's the one thing I got going for me. But either way, I did say this on Friday. Like, there's always that game every year, final week of the season, and it still was that game where, you know, going into the day, it's like the games has meaning, but the chances of it really meaning something, it doesn't mean much. Like, or it isn't probably gonna happen. Like, in terms of like the winner of that game going into yesterday, nobody here, I think most of NFL fans, nobody saw the Colts losing to the Jaguars. Nobody saw that coming. If you did, congrats. You saw it coming. Good for you, right? Good. No one saw it most people didn't see it. I can guarantee 90% of the NFL didn't see it. I think Colts, too. Deep down inside, I think they knew, hey, it's a bad Jaguars team. We just got to go out there and take care of business. And that's the Colts' mindset. And the Colts went into yesterday with the mindset of, they laid a dud. They laid a dud. That was just bad preparation and just not being ready. I mean, how do you blow a season like that? I mean, they blew their season. You get the Jaguars, a 2-14 Jaguars team, which has fired their head coach middle of the year. They got their fans in the stadium, which, by the way, was a nice turnout, with clown masks on and clown noses on, wanting them to fire their GM. And you go into Jacksonville with a stadium full of Jaguars fans fed up with the organization, and you still find a way to lose. And maybe it's just them and winning in Jacksonville. I was saying it yesterday. Something about the Jets and playing in Buffalo the final week of the season never goes well. You had the 53 total yards of offense yesterday. A couple years ago, Todd Bowles' first season with Fitzpatrick. When we were in, we ended up losing that game against Rex Ryan, former coach for the Jets, as we all know. It's just bad. Jets and playing in Buffalo never works out. Now, the Jets did 2019, Sam Darnold's second season, Adam Gase's first year, did win the meaningless Week 17 game in Buffalo, 13-6, I believe the score was. They did win that game. Buffalo was sitting all their starters, so rightfully so they won that game. But yesterday they got, played bad. You played bad, that season. So it's almost like maybe the Colts just can't win in Jacksonville. They just struggle. And it's the truth. Some teams just don't. Like, there's players, there's organizations that against a team just aren't good. They just aren't good. Like the Jets just aren't good against Brady. They just aren't. They can't. Now, not many teams are, but just to give you an example. I'm trying to think of like another thing in sports where teams like the Orioles recently against the Yankees. They just are not good. Now, I get it. The talent disparity there is big. I mean, the Yankees are here and the Orioles are here. Yankees are competing for the playoffs and the Orioles are just hoping to win a couple games every year, right? Maybe that'll turn around for the Orioles. We'll see how things, if there is a season this year. But there's always those rivalries and stuff in sports where it's like, not even a rivalry, just a matchup where one team always dominates. And it almost seems like that's the case. Like the Colts, the Jaguars just can't seem to go into Jacksonville and beat the Colts. It's just difficult for them. They can't do it. Like they just really cannot do it. And I believe it's like 6 years since they beat the Jaguars in Jacksonville. And as bad as the Jaguars been, that means that the Colts have not swept the Jaguars in a season. So maybe the last time they did, I don't know if it counted as a road game. Maybe in London, I think they had a game. But oh my God, I mean, you blow the season. Just trying to think like now I'm trying to think were other coaches just dominant? Like I don't even know why this popped in my mind. Kirk Cousins on primetime Monday Night Football, right? He stinks. He was like 0-8 at one point or something. I think he's got a couple more wins now, but something about him and Monday Night Football and being on prime time under the bright lights on national television just doesn't work out for him. And Colts going into Jacksonville just don't work out for them. Jets against Buffalo final week of the season never works out. Jets going to Buffalo in general doesn't always work out. Didn't work out week 1 last year. Didn't work out yesterday. Didn't work out the first year top bowls. Many other examples. But they're just like the Colts. I mean, you have you talk about control your own destiny. You talk about, you dictating what your season's going to be. Colts needed to win yesterday. Like, all they had to do was win. They had playoffs in their hands. And they lose. And they fall to 9-8. So, this is how it is. Steelers are in. So, the Steelers will play the 7-2, or the Steelers as the 7th seed will have to go to Arrowhead against the Chiefs. Let me mind you, 2 weeks ago, the Steelers got destroyed against the Chiefs on the road at Arrowhead. 3 weeks ago. It was, the Sunday game, and then you had the Monday night game against the Browns, Big Ben's final home game, and then that. So, and by the way, it was Big Ben's final home game. So, Big Ben, the Steelers cannot play home. They're the last seed, so they will not get a home game. No matter how things shake out, they will have to go on the road for Wildcard, divisional round, championship, and the Super Bowl's not in Pittsburgh. It's in SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles, so they'll be on the road throughout the playoffs. So Big Ben did, in fact, play his final road game with the final home game, rather, with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But now the Steelers got to go to Arrowhead, and I still stand by this. I think the Colts would have brought up a better fight on the road against the Chiefs. I think the Chargers would bring up a better fight on the road against the Chiefs. I could even make the argument a healthy Ravens team with Lamar Jackson would bring up a better fight on the road against the Chiefs. But it's the way things laid out. You got to give credit where credit's due. Hey, the Steelers didn't give up. I mean, they did not give up on the season. And maybe this is just the football gods giving Big Ben one last run. Maybe it is. We've seen this before in sports, where a quarterback, final year of his career or something, makes not even just a quarterback, but just an athlete in general, makes this, has this great season. Ray Lewis, we saw it. Final year of his career in the Ravens. Ravens won the Super Bowl. To think of an AFC North player, right? So I'm not saying the Steelers are going to go on the road throughout the playoffs, starting in Arrowhead, which is one of the hardest stadiums to play in, let alone one of the hardest teams in the league to beat in the Kansas City Chiefs. I understand they haven't had as much success this season as they like, but they're still a 12-5 football team, and they're still a 2 seed, and they're still going to be hosting a playoff game. So it's going to be interesting to see how things go. But all I ask is that game to be close. Like, I don't want to see a 35-10 victory. I mean, I wouldn't mind it, I guess, but it wouldn't be good. So then the Bills play the Patriots at home, and the Bengals, which I'm really looking forward to this game. This is interesting. Bengals Raiders. Bengals on the at home against the Raiders. So Raiders getting in. Just shock. I mean, if you would have told me after that loss against the Chiefs on the road, the way that thing went, that game was ugly. 6-7. They finish out the year on a 4-game win streak, including that game-winning field goal. I keep going back to that. That game-winning field goal in that Tuesday game, or was it Monday or Tuesday? Whatever. It was that weird game that got postponed against Cleveland on the road. That game altered the Browns season in the wrong direction and took the Raiders from being, yet again, blowing it late to winning 4 games, and they win 10 this season. And Derek Carr, for the amount of years he's played in the NFL, it is pretty crazy to see. This is his first playoff appearance. Obviously, a couple years ago they made it, but he had the injury that sidelined him, and they got eliminated in the first round. So I believe it was the Texans. But the Raiders got the win. So 35-32. Like I said, Colts blow it against the Jaguars. And yeah, you got to give credit where credit's due. I mean, the Jaguars with a brutal year and everything they've gone through, they played well. Trevor Lawrence, you can make the argument, had one of his more complete and better games as a pro. Threw for 223 yards and 2 touchdowns. And you look at these bad teams. You look at like teams that struggle, and your whole goal is to spoil. Like the Jets yesterday, their goal was to spoil the Bills' chances at the AFC's title. And if the Patriots would have won, even if the Jets would have beat the Bills yesterday, Bills still would have been the AFC champions. But you look at the Jaguars, right? They had a chance to really cause chaos in the playoffs, and they did. And they go into the offseason on a little bit of a high. But still, a lot of organizational issues there in Jacksonville. Niners got the win against the Rams. So with the Cardinals having a brutal loss against the Seahawks, I mean, that's just inexcusable. Niners beat the Rams 27-24 with the late field goal in overtime. So, the Rams lost. The The Niners did what they needed to do. They clinched the playoffs. They also helped the Cardinals, but the Cardinals didn't help themselves. They lost. So, if the Rams would have lost, Cardinals would have been in as the NFC West titles, but they didn't. So, in the NFC, it's gonna be the Buccaneers, Eagles, then Cowboys, Niners, and then Rams, Cardinals. So you get a little NFC West battle. And at the end of the day, we thought that 4 NFC West teams was possible. We definitely thought 3 were. There is 3. So it's the Cardinals, Rams, and Niners. It's funny. They're 4, 5, and 6. So 4, 5, and 6 seeds are NFC West. We knew it was going to be a tough, good division. I probably at the beginning of season, I saw Cardinals, Rams, Seahawks more so than the Cardinals, Seahawks, or Cardinals, Rams, Niners. But Niners 10-win team. And the Eagles just squeaked in at 9-8. They had the tiebreaker over the Saints, so 9-8. It's just funny looking at like the Vikings realistically. I mean, they're 2 wins away from being a playoff team, and that's what's so weird. Like, I get it, they underachieve, but it's so funny how weak the NFC is compared to the AFC. I'm not taking anything away to NFC playoff teams, but like the final playoff team in the AFC, I understand. I mean, I guess you could say whatever you want, but there was 3 teams in the AFC that finished 9-8 that didn't make the playoffs. 1 team that finished 9-8 in the NFC that didn't make the playoffs. That's the Saints. The 10 seed, Washington, 7-10. The 10 seed in the AFC, 9-8 Miami Dolphins, who last week, if they would have won last week, completely could have been even more chaos this week. Just goes to show you the difference. But yeah, so those are the matchups. And like I said, Titans and the Packers both clinching first-round byes and playoffs throughout the postseason. So let me just give you the wild card games, the schedule. So the first game on the schedule is the Bengals Raiders Saturday 4:30 Eastern. Then after that will be the Bills Patriots 8:15 Eastern on Saturday. And then Sunday you have 3 games. So I apologize. I said 2 on Sunday. 3 on Sunday. It is the Eagles Bucks at the normal 1 o'clock time Eastern. Cowboys Niners 4:30 Eastern, and then Chiefs Steelers will wrap up Sunday at 8:15 Eastern. And then the Monday night game will be 8:15 p.m. Eastern, Cardinals Rams Monday night. And then obviously 4 divisional round games and 2 conference games, and then so on, so forth. So wild card weekend's always the big one. When you go home, and that's really it. Some really good matchups. So just to finish off here, some of the other games. So like I said, Seahawks took down the Cardinals. They go into an offseason with Pete Carroll's future uncertain. I'd assume he stays, but we'll see what happens with Russ. And like I said, it's so early to tell. It's one day after the regular season. Once you get into the prime of the offseason, that's really when a lot of these decisions and questions are answered. I think I got everything. I think I got it all. Browns, like I said, finish off the season with a win. Another team goes into the offseason with a question at quarterback. What do you do with Baker Mayfield? Case Keenum played pretty well yesterday. 176 yards, 2 touchdowns. Did have a pick. Did get sacked once, but a rating of 102.1. Did what he needed to do for them to get a win against a playoff-bound Bengals team. So that's pretty much it. That is the results yesterday. By the way, I always give an update. 8-26 this year combined record for New York football. So take it with a grain of salt, whatever you want to do. Whether if you're a Jet fan and you knew this season was going to be rough and you don't even and this season's kind of just like a blur. And whether you're a Giant fan truly disappointed, like I said, whether you're a Jet fan that's super excited about the future and don't really care with the way the season played out, or whether you're a Giant fan that's super, super frustrated with the things that have played out, whatever it is, still, the 2 New York football teams and are the biggest market in the world in terms of sports. 8-26. So, not good. And, like I said, one team is, I think, in a more positive, definitely in a better situation, that being the Jets. And one team's in a situation where it just seems like they're going backwards, and that being the New York Giants and retaining Joe Judge. I really would, and like I said, I don't have guests on this show. I'm not big enough yet to have that, but I really would love to call John Mara and ask him, ask him some questions. Bring him on as a guest. I know it's, I don't bring on guests on the show. I'm not big enough yet, right? Hope to be big one day. I'm trying my best to, get my channel out there and try my best to, increase my viewership. But like I said, I just like to do these for fun. I love doing podcasts. I enjoy this. I have a blast talking about sports. But back to my point with more on topic with the Giants, like I would love to ask Mara like what his thought process and what he sees in Joe Judge. It's just mind-boggling to me. It's like he's won one more game, and like I said, I'm not trying to compare him to Gase. I'm just using another New York sports coach to do that, and he's been awful. I mean, he's been brutal. 10-23, and he's coming back. And I feel the pain Giants fans are going through right now because I said all along Gase should have been fired after year one. I mean, I think he should have been fired after that 1-7 start, but it is what it is. Say what you want. Either way, he's fired, and the misery, was over, and we're already a year into the Saleh era now, so that's way in the past at this point. But it's just like, oh my God. I mean, the guys and the team got worse, and the roster supposedly they say got better, but the team got worse. It's like that should show you something. When you go 6-10 last year and you're at least competitive, you got to give it to them. I know they lost 10 games, but they were competitive. And you go into this season, you're not even competitive. You're not remotely close. You're losing these games. You're not scoring touchdowns. I mean, yes, they finally scored, and it was late in the fourth quarter in a meaningless game that it was over at that point. I mean, just really, really poor decision by the Giants. It's just, it really is, and that's why, like, I want to do a off-season preview for the Giants, but I don't even know what to say. Like, they don't have any cap space. It's just like I'm gonna sound like a broken record talking about the Giants, and I'm glad I'm not a Giant fan today. Now let me tell you, being a Jet fan is not spectacular either. It's a lot of pain and misery. 11 years without the playoffs. But I mean, in terms of where the future of franchise are going, like, and I talk about this being such a big offseason by the Jets, because right now, like, the Jets are here, right? Like, we're kind of on this upward angle. Like, we started the season rocky, finished out the year. I understand some losses, but in terms of what we saw progress from players and talent on the roster, it's kind of up. Like, the Giants right now are going like this. And today they could have changed that. They could have went like this if they would have fired. Right now the Giants are going like this. And today, if they would have fired Judge, they kind of would have perked up a little bit, right? And maybe if they would have hired Flores, they would have been like this, and they would have been right back to where they could be a competent football team again. Like the Jets right now, and that's why I talk about the offseason being so big. I mean, the Jets right now are like this. Like, they're not straightly up. Like, they're not completely soaring, but they're like about right here. They're starting to climb up. Big offseason comes. They can make some big moves, get some big guys in here, make some big moves in the draft, really solid assets, continue to develop Wilson. Next season, we could see a improvement like this. That is how big the Jets off season is. And they're going to need to make some moves. So Giants, Jets finish out the year. Jets and Giants 8-26 on the season. So not great, but you have the off season. You have the Jets picking 4th and 10th. Giants, I believe, get the 5th pick, and let me see here. I could pull it up. And then we'll get to fantasy and, pretty much finish out the podcast. So the Giants get I gotta look. So Jets get the 4th pick, Giants get the 5th pick. So Jets get the 4th and 10th pick. 4th pick being their own, 10th being from Seattle in the Jamal Adams trade. Then the Giants get the 5th pick, and then the 7th pick, that's that 5th pick being their own, 7th pick being from Chicago, which was the draft pick last year that got the Giants Kadarius Toney and got the Bears Justin Fields. So, by the way, just for whatever it's worth, while I'm here, Jets 2022 regular season opponents. I know this is way ahead of the schedule, but I guess time to look ahead. I guess. Home opponents next season obviously includes the AFC East, which is the Bills, Dolphins, Bills, Dolphins, Patriots, and in the non division opponents will be the Bengals, Ravens, Jaguars, Bears, Lions. So very easy home schedule. Jaguars, Bears, and Lions 3. That's like, I know a thing away in advance, but that. So we play the AFC North next year. Then the road games will be, like I said, 3 AFC East opponents will be the Bills, Dolphins, Patriots. And then your away opponents, your non-AFC opponents, your non-AFC East opponents, rather, will be the Browns, Steelers, then the Broncos, Packers, Vikings, Seahawks. So, we play the entirety of the NFC North and the AFC North. And, yeah. So this year we played the AFC South, I believe, and the NFC South, right? Because we played the, we played the Titans, we played the Colts, we played the Texans, and we played the Jaguars. So we played the AFC South and the NFC South because we obviously played the Bucs, Saints, Panthers, and Falcons. So next year we get the AFC North, which is the Bengals, Ravens, Browns, Steelers. Bengals, Ravens being at home, Browns, Steelers will be on the road. And the NFC North will be the Bears, Lions at home, and the Packers, Vikings on the road. And then 3 opponents that they just threw in there for the extra were the Jaguars, Broncos, Seahawks. So like I said, we have 9 road games next year, 8 home games. So, 1 extra home game, then road game. Or 1 extra road game, then home game. This year we had 9 home games, 8 road games. Next year we will have 8 home games, 9 road games. All right, so anyway, I can blab on and on about the schedules. That's way in advance. We still got a lot ahead of us in terms of the offseason and what this team's going to do. And it's going to be an exciting offseason. Even just talking about rumors and possibilities and, brainstorming different things. And it'll be interesting. I always say this, this is the real season for New York football. This is, the time. Good draft pick. A lot of, cap space for the Jets. Not so much for the Giants, but either way. Alrighty, so let's get to fantasy football and the rest of the sports world here. We'll get the basketball first. So tonight we got the Bucks and the Hornets. I'll give the Bucks to win. And Jazz Pistons, I'll give Jazz to win. Celtics Pacers, I'll give Celtics to win. Knicks Spurs, give Knicks to win. Knicks back at the Garden tonight. 76ers Rockets, I'll give 76ers to win. And Cavs Kings, I'll give Cavs to win. Nets also play tonight, a weird West Coast game in Portland after a day game yesterday. Nets come into this game 25-13. Trailblazers come into this game 15-24. Nets are 8.5-point favorites. The over-under is 224. This game goes on tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern on Yes. You could also find it on Root Sports. The prediction is not out yet about who will win this game. I think the Nets will win, but I will tell you this. I don't think they cover the 8.5. I think it's close. We have not been playing well enough for me to fully trust this team right now. I think we win, but I think it's closer than what people think. Tonight in the NHL, we got the Capitals and the Bruins. I'll give the Capitals the win. Lightning Devils, I'll give Lightning the win. Avalanche Kraken, give Avalanche to win, and those are your games. And the Rangers are back in action tonight and continue the West Coast trip. No Gallant. Chris Knobloch will be manning the bench tonight for the Rangers. Rangers come into this game 23-9-4. Kings come into this game 17-13-5. The over-under is set at 5.5. This game goes on tonight, 10:30 p.m. Eastern on Bally Sports. You could also find it on MSG. 66% of people think the Rangers win this game. Alrighty, so I'll give the Rangers the win. Alrighty, so the big game on tonight. Georgia, Alabama. So Georgia, number 3rd ranked team in the nation versus Alabama, the number 1 ranked team in the nation. Alabama comes into this game 12-1. Georgia comes into this game an even same record, 12-1. And Georgia, not Alabama, Georgia is 2.5-point favorites. The over-under is set at 52. This game goes on tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. Their final hoorah this year for them, as they will not be getting playoff football with the Colts choking against the Jaguars. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm super fired up for this game. I get so excited for the college football championship. I mean, it's always an exciting game. It's always a lot of fun. You say what you want about the teams back in it. Bama, Georgia, classic SEC rivalry. Georgia wants revenge. Bama and Nick Saban just want to win another one like they always do. Now, the prediction of who will win the game. 53% of people think Georgia will win this game. Now, I will admit, up to this point, I still don't really fully know who's going to win. I have the team who I think is going to win. I could see both teams winning it. I really could. I could see Georgia winning this one. I could, that age-old saying of, or not even the saying, just the age-old thing of, it's hard enough to beat a team once, even harder to beat a team twice. And Bama obviously crushed Georgia, in the SEC championship game. They crushed them. They creamed them, destroyed them. And it was kind of like a wake-up call for Georgia. It was kind of like, okay, are we is this really it? And going into the postseason, I was kind of one of those fans like, I don't believe in Georgia. And they completely dominated Michigan. And it's almost like now they're riding on a high again. It's like, okay, is Georgia really it? Can Georgia now actually defeat and beat Alabama? And I understand. I get it. Alabama still won last week 27-6. But it still wasn't their best performance. And I get that. But I've gotten to the point, like, over the years where every year, and we try to do this every year as fans, like I try to do. Like, I try to figure out a way to say Bama's not going to win. I try to figure out a way to look like say, oh, Bama's not winning this. I just can't find a way. Like, every year, last season I did predict Bama to win. They won. But there was always that, there was that, I was saying, oh, this Bama team's, no. Every year it's like, this Bama team's not it. And every year Bama finds a way to win. And sadly, I don't want Bama to win this game. I am rooting for Georgia. So, I hope my pick's wrong here, because I want Georgia to win this game. I can't stand Bama, can't stand Nick Saban. I don't like him. But, ultimately, I just think experience, it's Alabama. Every year they're in it. Every year they seem to win it. It's just like, until they show me otherwise, I just don't know how I can pick up against Alabama. Last week, and I said, or I'm sorry, not least, 2 weeks ago, right? New Year's Eve and, New Year's weekend, right? I said that Alabama-Cincinnati game was going to be close because I didn't fully believe in Alabama. And I believed in Cincinnati. Well, Alabama won by 21, right? And then last weekend I was like, okay, Georgia, I don't know if they're really it. They crushed them. So it did make me tough. Definitely, this is a very tough, difficult pick to make. One of my harder ones to make, definitely, just because it's like Alabama crushed them last time, but Alabama didn't look as good last week, and Georgia looked really good. So it's like, what are you going to go off of? Are you going to go off of what you saw, last time these two teams played against each other? Are you going to go off of what you saw Alabama against Cincinnati and Georgia against Michigan? If you're going off of what you saw in the college football semis, you take Georgia all day. If you're going off of what you saw last time and overall this entire season and just overall your feeling on experience and just Bama, Georgia, you probably take Bama. And I'm doing that. Like, I'm not picking against Bama again. I'm just not. So, Georgia does have experience. Kirby Smart's had experience in big games. He was on Bama's staff, all that stuff. But it's just Nick Saban. It's Alabama. It's a big game. It's just like, I don't know. I'm not going to pick against them. As much as I want to, I'm just not. So, it's Alabama in a college football national championship game. Hard not to pick against Alabama. So, I'm going to take Bama here. I hope I'm wrong. I'm rooting for Georgia. I'm pulling for them. I want to see Stetson Bennett and this offense get going early. Let's see the defense maybe force some turnovers on Bama. That's going to be big. They need to force some turnovers. They need to get going early. They need to get off to a quick start. One thing you notice is teams that lose to Alabama, they get off to slow starts. Teams that beat Bama, they get off to quick starts and get Bama on their heels early. Cincinnati could never find a rhythm. Bama started to find a rhythm. They won, right? Georgia could never find a rhythm, had some bad mistakes early when they played Bama. Bama crushed them. Georgia needs to limit the mistakes and needs to get off to a good start. You can't let Bama get off to this huge start, because if that happens, you're done. Forget about it. Forget about a second half comeback. You got to find a way to just keep this game close. You can't go into halftime down 14. Go into halftime down 7, and if you get the ball, you can make it a tie game. You can't go down halftime down 17-3 and expect to come back, because Bama's not going to allow you to do that. Ultimately, though, I do think Bama wins the big game. All right, give me Bama 35-31. Okay, I think it's relatively high scoring. Bama barely wins. 35-31. Bama wins. I'll take the over on the over-under of 52, and I think Bama, give me Bama plus 2.5. I got Alabama winning the national championship. I hope I'm wrong. Like I said, I can't stress it enough. I want Georgia. I'm going to be pulling for Georgia. I hope Georgia wins. But ultimately, I think Bama wins. That's really what I think. So, give me Alabama. All right, so let's get to fantasy. As for fantasy basketball, right now I'm currently winning 16-0 because the game's just started. Doing a podcast a little later today, so I'm going to try my best to get it up before the Alabama game. I think I should be able to get it up just in time before the Bama-Georgia game. But either way here, got some fantasy basketball stuff. I won last week. by a score of 1,422 to 1,237. So I moved to 11-1 on the season. And today I've got going Donovan Mitchell, Miles Bridges, Kelly Oubre, Darius Garland, Rashawn Holmes, Buddy Hield, Tyrese Maxey. Kelly Oubre's out. Oubre, health and safety protocols. Holmes protocols. And Maxey is protocols. So a lot of that protocols and stuff like that. So hopefully that stuff gets sorted out. And those guys are back in action. And as for fantasy football, I lost most recently this week. So I lost in the consolation 209 to 175. And yeah, it's just tough year. So I finished overall in 4th place on the year. Or I'm sorry, actually, I finished not 4th place. I don't even know where I finished. It wasn't good. I guess I finished 5th or 6th. Because 4th, 5th. I guess I finished 7th. I guess. Or, yeah, I guess I finished 7th. So, not a good year at all out of 8 teams. Just, it stinks because, yeah. So, actually, final standings, I finished 6th place. So, I finished in 6th place for the final season, for the final standing. So, out of 8 teams, I finished in 6th place. It's not great, but it is what it is. It was a tough year for fantasy football on both teams. Yeah. So I went 7-6-1. And the crazy part is that just goes to show you how crazy the season is. I had a chance final week of the season getting the 3 seed, and I finished 6th. So it just goes to show you how crazy a season can be. And look, so this was my 6th season played in this league. I've had 3 playoff appearances, 3 top 3 finishes. I've never won in this league. And I've had 6 season plays. My all-time record is 37-41-1. 79 total matchups played. So 37-41-1 in my 6th year in this league. So not great, my record. My average finish is 5th, but yeah. So hopefully I can bounce back and have a better year next year, because this was definitely not a good year. Like I said, out of all of the stuff, time, and the stuff that I look like I said, I'm a nerd when it comes to sports. I'll just look at stats and stuff and just look at numbers and all that stuff. Like, I'll just look at players' stats and players' numbers and, look at, like, analytics. Not even just analytics, but look at guys like, baseball. Right before the games, I'll look at guys against certain pitchers. Like, I'm just like a nerd like that. So all of that, and I've never won a fantasy football championship. I never have. In all my years of playing. 6 years now I've played. 6 years now fantasy football I've played. Never won a championship. So my closest I've came in is 3rd. That's my closest. But it's funny. Fantasy basketball, I've already won. Fantasy baseball, I finished in 2nd. Fantasy hockey, finished in 2nd. So much more success in the other leagues. Fantasy football, I just can't find success. So hopefully next year is a little bit better for me. And, hopefully this time next year I'm talking about how I won both my leagues. That'd be nice. But either way, that'll do it for the podcast here today. College football game coming up soon. So want to end this. Try to get it up as quickly as possible. It's kind of finicky, YouTube, sometimes how long it takes to upload. Some days it takes 10 minutes, some days it takes 15, some days it takes a half an hour. It's finicky. It sometimes decides it's just kind of whatever it feels like doing. So I'm hoping that it gets up pretty quick today and I can get it up before the game. So, whether you want to watch it during the game or watch it tomorrow, whenever it is, I know it's going to be up later than usual, but it's going to be up there. It's going to be out. It's going to be on it's going to be on YouTube, so whenever you want to watch, you can. Like I said, I love doing these podcasts. Always appreciate, you watching, and, always appreciate if you stop by and watch, and, even if it's just for a few minutes, I like to get my opinion out there. Like, love talking about sports, love doing these podcasts, and, hope you guys really enjoy them. That's really all I got to say on this Monday. And yeah, so enjoy all the sports on tonight. Nets Rangers on late Eastern time, 10 Eastern Nets, 10:30 Eastern Rangers. So shortly after there, and 8 Eastern ESPN Alabama Georgia should be great. Enjoy it. I'm excited for it. I'm fired up for it. Coming up in just a little bit here. So gonna get ready to go watch that. And yeah. That'll do it. Tomorrow I'll be back at it with another podcast. Should be up earlier tomorrow. So, scheduling sometimes comes in effect, so she'll be up earlier tomorrow. And yeah, that'll do it. As always, hopefully you all enjoyed it. I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.